What's up, everybody? My name is Seth, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on this Line 6 Shuriken Variax. This video is going to be less comprehensive and a lot more casual than my usual videos, so if you're new here or someone who's been following me for a while, hope you still enjoy it since I'm doing my best to try to make a video without any pre-planning whatsoever. So this is either going to end A, with you seeing this video because it turned out okay, or B, you seeing this video because I ran out of time to make something else before the month was over. It's probably going to be B. Even though Variaxes and the Shuriken have actually been out for a few years now, I know there's going to be some people that probably haven't heard about this before, so here's a quick background before we get on to the guitar itself. Essentially, Variaxes you can think of as the helix or axe effects of electric guitars. So essentially what you can do is go from a Strat sound to a Les Paul sound, semi-hollow body, acoustic, etc., 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 just from the flick of a switch. Variaxes also let you do crazy things like change the tuning on the fly without having to physically retune the strings. So that's another really cool feature for people who like to experiment with all kinds of crazy tunings and don't want to have to commit to buying tons of different string gauges just to get those tunings to play and intonate properly. The Shuriken is a Variax that was designed by Stevik McKay from the band 12 Foot Ninja, which if you haven't heard of 12 Foot Ninja before, you should definitely check them out if you want to hear something that's very different in the realm of modern metal, and also if you want to hear what this guitar sounds like when it's being absolutely used to its fullest potential. I'm going to try to scratch the surface of what this guitar is capable of in this video, but honestly, if you want the just purest distillation of all the creative possibilities that can be had with a Variax, go check out 12 Foot Ninja. Very quickly running through the specs, we've got locking tuners, a black tusk nut, maple neck, ebony fingerboard with 24 frets. Body is made out of alder, and we also have a single, I'd say medium output bridge pickup, as well as a bridge with the Variax saddle, so that way we can get all of our crazy guitar modeling stuff going. As far as construction quality, the Shuriken's actually pretty solid. There's only one minor aesthetic flaw that I found where it looks like there was a spot where some sawdust or hair made its way underneath the finish when they were spraying the mat, but I mean, other than that, there's really nothing to complain about with this guitar. Feel-wise, the neck is super smooth, so there's absolutely no problems there, but there is one very subjective issue that I have with this particular Shuriken, and that is that I bought the 27-inch scale length version of the Shuriken when I honestly probably should have bought the 25.5-inch version, just because I have pretty small hands, so anytime I'm trying to do any sort of technical playing on this guitar, I feel like I'm stretching for dear life. But honestly, that's kind of my own fault. The only reason why I bought the 27-inch was because in all the early marketing, I remember hearing Stevik say that the extended scale length helps pull the strings tighter, so it improves the tracking of the Variax. But I mean, they sell a 24 3/4 inch Variax, and I guess a lot of people have been using those without any issue, so I don't know how big of a difference the scale length makes for the tracking, but I can tell you, at least for my hands, it makes a big difference in terms of the playing experience. I could still get by fine on this guitar, but honestly, I feel much more at home on pretty much anything shorter than this. As far as how the Variax sounds as a standard electric guitar with just a single bridge pickup, I actually think it's pretty decent, though my one, I guess, gripe about it is that I think this pickup is a little bit dry sounding. But I'll let you guys hear some sound clips and then you can tell me what you think about it in the comments down below. I think it's pretty safe to assume that anybody that's buying the Shuriken or any other Variax isn't buying it for the stock standard pickups, they're buying it for all the guitar modeling possibilities, so I'm just going to move immediately into some sound examples using some of those models with a few different tones I've dialed in on the Axe effects. As far as the electric guitar sounds go in the Variax, I personally think the Strat sounds really weird, and I honestly don't care for it much at all. Everything else I think sounds pretty decent. It's not exactly one-to-one with the real-world counterpart, and I don't think I'd ever be in a situation where I pick up a Variax over just a regular Telecaster or a Les Paul if I had the option, but I could see how this would be incredibly useful in a live situation. What I think the Variax is really cool for outside of a live application, though, is for trying things out that you don't normally have first-hand experience with. So I personally don't own any guitars with Filtertrons in them, and I've actually found that my favorite model in the Variax is the one that uses the Filtertrons. I like the way it sounds clean. I like the way it sounds in the gain clips that you guys heard in this video. It's honestly definitely my favorite model, which is surprising because that's not usually the type of guitar I gravitate towards in real life, but this has honestly made me want to get some Filtertrons and install them in one of my guitars that I have here now. Another thing I notice when playing the models in the Variax is that from time to time I get this weird piezo-y artifact. I know piezo-y probably isn't the best adjective in the universe, but it's the best thing that I can come up with to get my point across. The wound strings sound like you're playing through an electric guitar and like a piezo at the same time, which I guess makes sense since the saddles that the Variax uses are actually piezo saddles. I don't know if there's something weird going on in the modeling, if that's something that can be edited out, or if that's just a byproduct of how the Variax works, but either way, when I hear it, it does get a little bit distracting, and I don't care for that sound, but it's not always there, and the severity at which it is there does vary depending on what model you're using. With the electric guitar models out of the way, let's move over to the acoustic models and the sitar, which is technically an electric instrument, yes, but it's cool, and I want to play it more. Alright, I personally think that the acoustic sounds on the Variax are pretty decent. I think it sounds better than just plugging in a traditional piezo on an acoustic guitar, but I don't think it sounds as good as miking an acoustic, which is what these models are trying to emulate. That being said, I do think the 12-string models are really cool just because with the pitch systems in the Variax, you have not all strings being pitched up by one octave, it's actually just the G through low E strings. The B and the E string are actually able to have like that slightly chorused effect of having two strings tuned to unison next to them. So that part's really cool. Now I'm going to turn my attention to the pitch manipulation side of the Variax. Specifically, I'm going to be doing so in a high gain metal context, just because that's kind of what the mission statement for this guitar was. And yes, even though you can do things like tune the guitar to dad-gad or open G, I don't really know how to play in those tunings, so rather than sitting here and making you all suffer through me playing something in a tuning I'm not familiar with, I'm just going to stick with the stuff that I know, and we're going to play some low tune chugs. I think it goes without saying that the ability to completely change the pitch of each individual string on your electric guitar at the flick of a switch is pretty awesome, and it's honestly not something that's really available in any foot pedal you can get today. That being said, even with the Variax's advanced pitch shifting capabilities, there are some drawbacks. As you probably heard from the sound examples, the further away you get from standard tuning, the more artifacts get introduced into the sound. The biggest one that I noticed is there's a bit more of a mid-range presence the lower tuned you go. Specifically, it almost makes the bridge pickup sound like a middle pickup, for lack of a better descriptor. Now, you can probably compensate for this in the Workbench software by moving the spacing of the bridge pickup a little bit, but for the sake of this video, I'm trying not to really touch the Workbench software and just stick with the stock sounds that come in the Variax. To wrap up this video, I'm just going to very quickly give you guys my overall thoughts on the Variax Shuriken. Now, I've actually owned this guitar for several years at this point, and in that time, I pretty much follow the same exact pattern of how I use it. I usually pull the guitar out of the case, I play it for a little bit, and then I'll experiment with all the different sounds, and I will have fun, but eventually the novelty of it wears off, and I start to gravitate towards guitars that, in my opinion, sound better. Now, having said that, nothing does do what the Variax does. I'm just fortunate enough to be able to own lots of different sounding guitars, so if I have a need for a particular sound, I can just grab that rather than dialing up a model in the Variax. The other thing is that I bought, like I said, the 27-inch scale version, so this guitar isn't the most comfortable to me. So as a result of that, I also gravitate towards anything else that I have just because I'm much more comfortable playing that. In a live situation, I completely understand how having something like a Swiss Army guitar would be really useful, but for me, I'm working mostly out of my little home studio here, so I have pretty much immediate access to any of the guitars in my collection. I don't necessarily need something that has all of those sounds built into it. But I think that's going to pretty much do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, just like every other YouTuber you've ever watched says, like it. If you haven't already, subscribe. And, if you're interested, I do have links to ways you can more directly support me and the channel in that description box, so check those out if you have a second. Again, I just want to say thank you just for watching the video. That really means a lot and it helps out so much. Until next time, take care, everybody. Hope to see you again soon.